Sometimes life goes a little off course. That's why you need a podcast host that can go a little off topic. This is the podcast that will give you straight talk about everything life throws at you. Welcome to another episode of Off Topic with Tom Powell. And here he is. This is Tom Powell.
I'm good, man. How are you doing?
Doing pretty all right.
Right on. Good to see you, man.
Yeah, likewise.
What
have you been up to?
About it? Huh?
What have you been up to?
Oh, nothing really going on with the kind of content I make.
Nah, pretty boring. Pretty slow.
It's been a lull of a week. Maybe it'll pick up next week.
Yeah, maybe something will happen.
Yeah, who knows? Sometimes you just get those boring news cycles.
I know.
My guess is there probably won't be much to talk about till November.
Right, of course. Yeah.
Before we get into any of the conversation, just in all seriousness, I started this podcast. Do you host a podcast?
Actually, I'm about to start co-hosting with Sandwich Dad and Sandwich Tribunal, Jim and John. We're going to do a sandwich talk.
Okay, I don't know Sandwich Tribunal, but Sandwich Dad, the guy from Canada, right?
Yeah, John.
Yeah, yes, I love that guy.
I do too. So we've all been online friends now for a few years now, and we just decided we saw that someone labeled Sandwich Talk on TikTok, and we thought, that'd be a good name for a podcast. We should do that. And so we're going to record our first episode on Wednesday, and we're going to have Bill Oakley, a former writer for The Simpsons, Futurama, and Portlandia on, because he now reviews fast food and pop culture.
Well, I wanted to say before we started talking about stuff, I started this podcast so that I can talk to the people online that I have found interesting since the explosion of TikTok.
Yes,
and I've gotten a chance to talk to all, and I went away from the politics with this podcast because I just wanted to talk about people in their lives and the stuff that I find cool. I've gotten to talk to a NASA flight director, and I got to talk to the NASA flight director guy. We're actually friends. We text now back and forth. I went down to Houston, and he and his wife took us out to dinner and gave us this wonderful backstage sort of tour of the Johnson Space Center. And I got to talk to homesteaders and people that make the news, and just, you're one of these accounts that I've been following for quite some time, and I just find it interesting. And I've been wanting to talk to you for some time, man.
Well, I'm honored to be included in the company of those folks you just described. That's awesome.
I appreciate it. So am I to understand that you went from graphic designer to sandwich guru?
Yeah, it was a weird journey. I mean, so I started off kind of self-taught graphic designer, somehow got a job at Netflix and got hired as the graphic designer in marketing back when it was this kind of small company, like 75 people. And then over the course of the 11 years I was at Netflix, of course, it grew into this, went from DVDs to streaming to international. And then I left right when the originals started happening. But in that time frame, I basically went to, it was like going to the best business school I could go to, but I got paid to do it. And so I'm more from just graphic designer to more marketing, brand, positioning, strategy kind of stuff. And I've been doing that as a partner in an agency since I left Netflix. But the sandwich stuff has just exploded in the last, 4 years. And it's it's kind of weird.
Do you still have your quote unquote day job, or is this now content creation your full time?
No, I still have my day job. But the good thing is I'm a partner in this consulting firm, and the way our stuff works, our big project, one of the big dogs that we do, ramps up around March and then ramps down in August. So it gives me time on either end of the year to really crank on stuff. So I was able to work on the cookbook that I've got coming out this fall last year at the end of the year because I had that time. So
cool. Just to show you that I do pay attention to people's websites and the content that they make. What really would be cool is if you did drive around the countryside solving mysteries in a van.
Yes.
And no, the little asterisk kind of broke my heart. I got to be honest with you.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Well, Yeah, Christine wants to buy an RV, not a huge one, but just a nice, good sized one, and travel around. And I always joke around and we'll travel around solving mysteries. And so I just put it on the website for fun to see if anyone ever read it.
Oh yeah, I read it. I was like, hell yeah, man, that's cool.
You're not the only one.
My wife and I were just looking at this. It's called a camper van last night. You mentioned it. That's why I wasn't going to talk about it, obviously, but we were watching it on TikTok last night. It's about the size of like the old conversion vans, a little bit beefier, but it is completely set up to be a nice little camper for two. And we're like, yeah, that we could do that. And then they popped the price tag on the screen here on TikTok, 267,000. I'm like, you out of your fucking mind? 267,000. That's more than I paid for my house.
Yes. No, well, clearly you don't live in California, but
no, I
know. But no, I agree, and the one that she wants is pretty expensive. So it's a dream.
VW bus, baby. VW bus.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if I'd fit in it very well, but
okay, so I don't know if you pay attention to any of the food content that I do because it's very limited. Obviously, it's snuck in between political posts. Yeah. But for a fat guy, I have an extraordinarily limited palate. The list of stuff I will not eat far outweighs the list of stuff I won't eat. Okay. And I watch your stuff with this awe. Like my wife gets a kick out of it because she can hear it and then she knows what you're putting on your sandwich, and then she's like, yeah, you'd never eat that, would you? And I'm like, no, not in a million years. I would never eat that. So your palate has to be quite wide and varied.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm pretty game for trying different things. Not everything. Like I get squeamish around offal. Like if I come across a sandwich that calls for sheep's brains, I'm probably not going to eat it just because that just freaks me out.
Really?
Yeah, like that kind of stuff freaks me out. And anything truffle flavored, I can't stand because it doesn't work with my palate. But other than that, yeah, I'll try stuff. Why not?
So interesting. So like you specifically mentioned brain. So what about tongue?
Tongue, it's one of those things where I'm working up to it. There's a fair amount of old recipes that feature tongue, and I feel like I need to actually address those. But we have to taste something that another animal used to taste as food.
It's weird. It's weird. I'll tell you. With my very limited palate, that is the most extreme thing I have ever come to enjoy, and I came to enjoy it because I spent many years working with Hispanic immigrants in the landscape in Chicago, and lingua tacos was something that they had quite frequently, and they're the ones that turned me onto it. You mentioning brain, I had an aunt in Southern Indiana that loved calf brain, and she used to send us to the market to get it, and I used to just
yeah. Oh yeah.
I could tongue I can do. The brain, oh God, no. So
yeah.
But outside of that, you seem to be pretty wide open, not only to just individual flavors, but combinations of flavors.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm very curious. I've always been curious. Well, not always. I should say, as an adult, I've been very curious about cooking and flavors and textures and things like that. So yeah, I'm open to trying things out, seeing if I can, when I do the plus ups, that's what I think about is texture. I think of contrasting or complementary flavors, and I try to look at, what other cuisines use similar, like spice blends that would overlap with this, like a Venn diagram on this sandwich that I could say, oh, I can use these ingredients and it'll go with this sandwich, even though it doesn't seem connected.
No, although all those, I know that's what you call them plus ups. Are they all your ideas, or are they things that you've a combination of yours or things that you found?
They're typically, I would say 99% mine. Sometimes I'll do, if someone writes in with a sandwich of art history and they'll say, my granddad used to plus it up with blah, 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 I'll do that. Or if a recipe recommends something, I'll do that. But most of the time it's me reading the recipe and going, oh, it'd be good might be interesting to try with this. I think it'll be good. And most of the time it is, sometimes not so much.
But okay, so sandwiches though, I mean, are you predominantly a sandwich guy, or did you just kind of get off on this side? Do you really like to just cook everything, but sandwiches just became this kind of like, it's kind of what took off? Or are you just like, I want sandwiches all the time kind of guy?
No, I'm not. I like to cook all kinds of stuff, and I like sandwiches. And to me, it was very interesting to take a look at what people thought was the cutting edge of sandwich, recipe technology in 1909. And what did they eat? What do they think was, wow, this is bee's knees. And try it today and see like how's that fit in with our modern palate. And at first I just started evaluating the recipes, and then I realized some of them were pretty okay. And if you just added an ingredient or two, they could be actually pretty good. And so that's where the whole plus up thing started happening, is because I'm like, I didn't want to just not eat the sandwich or throw it out. So maybe we'll add something to it and I'll finish it for lunch.
Yeah.
But I mean, sandwiches are great if you think about it. Every cuisine seems to have a sandwich. So
Yeah.
like every culture has a sandwich. And you can put anything between bread. The bread can change, the type of bread, how the bread's treated can get changed, can be pressed, can be toasted. Like there's so much variety, and it's portable.
Yes. Now, being from the Chicago area, I always get this question, and so I'm sure you've gotten it. So, where does the sandwich line get drawn? Like, is a hot dog a sandwich? Is a beef sandwich a sandwich? Is a gyro a sandwich?
Yeah, for me, I have two answers when people ask me about the hot dog specifically. And this first answer applies to the gyro, and it applies to the doner kebab and all the ones that are like chicken shawarma that's wrapped. It's not sandwich like the traditional two pieces of bread, but I'm not going to miss out on flavor. Plus, the whole category of sandwiches is made up. So maybe don't limit yourself by saying something is or isn't a sandwich. Just enjoy it.
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, but people keep asking. There was well, you're from Chicago. Is hot dog a sandwich? And I always tell them, no. I always put hot dog in that category with like bratwursts and Italian sausage sandwiches and things like that. And then inevitably they always come back with well, then the gyro must be a taco to you. And I'm like, well,
I know.
No, a gyro's not a taco because a taco's a taco. If a gyro was a taco, it'd be called a fucking taco.
Yeah, no, first of all, I agree with you on people always like, oh, well, in that case, they're always at the ready with I'm going to get you with this. And it's like, whatever. But for me, now I actually do think a hot dog is a sandwich. And I can tell you, I'll tell you why. And I'm not trying to tell you you're wrong. I'm just trying to tell you why I think.
No, not by all means.
But basically, if you look at the bread, the buns, the two sides of the buns are pretty close, if not very similar in thickness. The hinge is very much not. So the hinge is an accommodation to help keep the tubular meat in place. And if you look at like sub chains, a lot of them will cut the loaf, but they won't cut all the way through, and they'll cram it full of stuff. And those are still sandwiches. So to me,
this is true. Like yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. I never looked at it that way. I always put it in a roll category. Have you ever had a Chicago Italian beef, by the way?
Oh yeah. I used to live in San Diego, California, and some expats from Chicago opened a place called Sluggo's, and they serve Chicago style hot dogs. And oh my, I still miss them to this day. They went out of business decades ago, but my God, I love that so much.
So you like the hot dog with all that stuff on it that Chicago does?
I like a hot dog pretty much any way you serve it to me.
Oh, okay. So you're a big hot dog fan. I'm more of a beef guy than I am a hot dog guy. And I don't care for the Chicago style dog. It goes back to my limited palate.
Okay.
They around here they call it dragging it through the garden, and it's like I don't like mustard, so I can't put mustard on it. I don't like onions, and it's like onions a texture thing for me, right? Because I eat the hell out of French onion soup, but I tell them no onion, just give me the broth, the toast, and the cheese. And they always look at me like I've got lobsters crawling out of my ears, but it's a texture thing for me. But I don't like those. I don't like the sport pepper, and I don't want a pickle and a wedge of tomato on my hot dog. So
that's fine. That's fine. I say it's actually good that you know this about yourself, and you're just like, this is what I want.
Amen. The problem around here is that I'm still juvenile in one sense, in that I like ketchup on my hot dog, and that's just a faux pas in Chicagoland. It's one of the only things I still like ketchup on. I've moved severely away from ketchup in my life, but man, does it still work on a hot dog for me?
You know what? I every once in a blue moon, I get nostalgic and I have ketchup on scrambled eggs like I did when I was a kid.
I remember that. I remember.
But I'm the same way. I've moved away from ketchup, not entirely, but I use it for sandwiches of history, but I don't use it in my day to day.
Okay, so obviously you've probably been asked this. I don't know how many podcasts or interviews you've been on. I see that you've been featured on some news outlets. I'm going to ask you the boring old interview questions. Best sandwich, worst sandwich?
Oh, best sandwich, you're gonna hate the relativism of this, but it really depends on when you ask me how hungry I am. Is it hot outside? Like
Hmm.
all these factors play into it. Do I want a light sandwich? Do I want a big roast beef, blue cheese, arugula, monster? I want peanut butter and dill pickles, something like snacky. I will say that like the international sandwiches that I do, like the pan bagnat and the banh mi, it's just so amazing, so good. Any sandwich from Mexico is fantastic. I just did one from Turkey the other day that was amazing, the kumru. So yeah, I can't pick a sandwich. Worst sandwich, I can tell you the worst sandwich that I've had. One of the two, there's two really. One was called the oyster sandwich from 1909, an up-to-date sandwich book. And it was raw oysters, chopped up, mixed with olive oil and a little Worcestershire sauce, and put between buttered bread with a leaf of lettuce. And I personally, I like raw oysters on the half shell. That was a slimy, gross mess. I just couldn't. It was terrible. The other was the yeast sandwich, and that was a fresh yeast cake mixed with table sauce, which was Worcestershire sauce, and it was put on buttered bread, and it was just like eating wallpaper paste. Not that I've done that, but that's what I imagine it would be
That's
like.
what you imagine. It's like, yeah.
Uh,
What I used to get well, I still do get a kick when I see them pop up. When you would get those books, or you would talk out of those books, show recipes out of the books, it was like from like the 30s, 40s, and 50s, like how to be a good hostess and the sandwich, the little finger sandwiches that they would serve and stuff. Some of those were some of the more interesting but yet weird sandwiches I think that you did, where
yeah,
you'd be mashing stuff down. Like, I don't know what they're doing here, but we're going to go ahead and let's give it a go and
let's
see
give it
what.
a go.
So that's another question. I guess I didn't put it in my notes. Is there a weirdest sandwich?
Yeah. That I don't, off the top of my head, I don't have. There's so many weird ones. I mean, I just did one last week that was kind of weird just because of the construction, where it was like buttered bread, ham, another piece of bread, and then butter on the top. Then on top of that, cream cheese, because why not? And then on top of that, tomato. And that was the outside of the sandwich. It's like, why would you build a sandwich like this? That makes no
Good
sense to
story.
me. So that definitely ranks up there. But weirdest sandwich, I'd have to go back and check tape on that. I've done like I don't even know, more than 700 sandwiches at this
Well, and
point.
that's the other thing is at some point in time you got to run out of sandwiches now.
You know, you'd think so. But like one book I have, one book. It's called 1001 Sandwiches, and that's from 1936. And I have another one from 1960s. That's another 1,000 sandwiches that are not the same sandwiches. And the up-to-date sandwich book is 400 sandwiches. So,
Good lord.
and then, you know, I also do, like I said, I do International Sandwich Sunday, so I'll do international sandwiches. I do sandwiches of art history, where I do sandwiches that people sent in to try and capture sandwiches that are kind of passed down in a family. Like my grandpa used to make this, my mom used to make this, that kind of stuff. So I've got those sprinkled in as well. So probably not going to be running out anytime soon.
Is it hard to find some of the more off the beaten path ingredients from some of these sandwiches?
Yeah, definitely. Like, well, and also you have to kind of figure out, you have to translate like what's like when they say like take a whip or take a cream cheese. And it's like, I don't know about you, but I don't buy a cream cheese. I just buy cream cheese. What is that? So turns out it's 3 ounces because that's how they used to sell it. So that kind of stuff, there's that. But then there's also finding ingredients like a couple of recipes call for something called a zephyret. And the only time I've ever even heard that term was it was used by Burns in The Simpsons. So
Really?
I look for like a recipe how to make zephyrets or anything like that, what they are, and I still haven't found it yet. So yeah, it's that stuff like that gets kind of like annoying because you can't find it.
We were talking a minute ago about what is and is not a sandwich. Is a hot brown a sandwich?
Hot brown, yeah, why not? It's got the bread. It's an open face sandwich, which I
Okay.
know is open face is a contentious thing within the sandwiching community because some folks are diehard that it's not a sandwich, but again, it's made up.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And we watched a show, I think it was on like the Food Network or something, and they went across the country and hitting all the different, this is the sandwich from this area. You come to Chicago and it's the Italian beef. You go to Maine and it's the lobster roll, and they obviously were in Kentucky and they were doing the hot brown. And that sandwich, along with the muffaletta, always intrigued me, but I just don't think I could do either sandwich because the olive loaf on the muffaletta is where you lose me. Like I don't do olives at all.
Okay, then yeah, you would not like the muffaletta at all. The olive salad is delicious, but if you don't like olives, no.
Right. And it seems to me from looking at the construction of the muffaletta, if you omit the olive salad, then it's just a dry ass loaf of bread with meat on it.
I mean, don't get me wrong, the meat and cheese on it are still going to be delicious. It's not going to be terrible, but it would be drier and it would be missing some critical flavor components, including the oil from the olive salad.
Yeah, exactly. You'd have to. That's
So,
the thing. You'd have to bring in other oils and stuff like that.
yeah.
So do you have? Do you? I know that you're working on a lot of different projects.
Mhm.
Is there any? Is there any like a show in the works? Has anybody approached you about like Food Channel or anything like that?
So two independent TV production companies approached me over the years, and I worked with both of them, and they did pitches, and every network and the streamer passed on it. Especially like the Food Network is just looking for competition cooking shows at this point. That's all they are. So I mean, they're not gonna. I wouldn't expect them to be interested. But everyone else is like, they couldn't really see the vision for it. So nope, no TV show or anything like that. But I am working on a kind of a tour, event-based tour for the fall after the Sandwiches of History, the cookbook comes out, where I'll go to the cities and it'll be kind of like a history of Sandwiches of history of who's this Barry guy, and then we'll do maybe make a sandwich, plus it up, have some guests stop by, do a Q&A, that kind of stuff.
Cool. Any plans on getting to Chicago?
Oh yeah, no, Chicago, LA, and New York are shoo-ins, if for no other reason than that's where the biggest concentration of folks that follow me are because they're the most populous cities in the country.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely going to hit Chicago up.
Right on. You gotta let me know when you're in town.
Absolutely.
I'll take you to Al's number 1 on Taylor Street and get you the original Italian beef sandwich.
Yes.
And it's just a short few block walk from my daughter's dorm.
Okay.
And so I've kind of hooked her. She's a hot dog gal, right? So around in the Chicagoland area, you're either a beef person or you're a hot dog person, and she landed squarely on the hot dog side. Yes, you look surprised by that.
You have to choose.
No, it's not that you choose. You eat both, but you prefer one over the other.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And so when you're growing up in Chicagoland, the hot dog stand or the beef stand was typically the same stand. That they would have Chicago style hot dogs and Chicago style Italian beefs, and maybe outside of that they branched into like burgers and gyros and things like that, right? You're talking about one of those restaurants where you walk up to the counter order and there's like a board with the little letters that you put on there. It's the great you know it's good food when you walk into a place like that, right? So every neighborhood in Chicago's got one of those, and they all serve beef and hot dogs, and you just kind of lean towards one or the other. My daughter leans towards the hot dogs. I lean towards the beefs. But when I took her into the city to kind of show her how to do the public transportation and all of that ahead of her first year, because she goes to school in the heart of Chicago at UIC.
Okay. All right.
And it's right down the street. It borders Little Italy. And I took her to Al's, and I'm like, we got to go. I'm here. I got to have an Al's beef. She goes there so often now. The lady, when she walks in, the lady goes, Lily, 2 with everything? Yeah, I got it. I'll work on it. So they just know her order.
Wow, that's frequency right there. That's good.
It's brand loyalty. So if you're in town, we got to take you down there. Now, I was looking at your website. You have a ton of accounts.
Yes, I do. But Sandwiches of History is the only one that I post every single day at noon Pacific. In the Chips with Barry, I'll do a post Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and a Can It sandwich on Saturday. 1 week, and then the next week is just one review. I was doing that every week, but I kind of scaled that back once Sandwiches of History started taking up time. And then the other accounts, Barry's Ice Cream O'Clock, Craft Beer Barry, Barry's Cooking Again. Those are just ad hoc. Just when I am inspired, I'll make something and I'll post it on there.
Interesting. Okay. And so, do you carry those same themes throughout all the social media platforms then?
How do you mean? Like, all the.
You have all those accounts on TikTok. Do you have all of those on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter or whatever?
So the ones I just referenced are all on Instagram. TikTok has Barry's Cooking Again, In the Chips with Barry, Barry's Ice Cream O'Clock, and Sandwiches of History. YouTube has Sandwiches of History, In the Chips with Barry, Barry's Cooking Again. And then Facebook is Sandwiches of History, In the Chips with Barry. And then Reddit is just Sandwiches of History.
So the chips with Barry, explain to us what that is.
That was my first foray into doing social media in a meaningful way, and that was just I was reviewing chips that I would find interesting flavors and just posting a picture of it and the description of it on Facebook. And my buddy says, "Hey, you should do a vlog." I'm like, "Okay." So I started to do YouTube videos, and if you go back and look at the very early ones, they're like 2 minutes of me rambling, and it's just boring. And then I started getting into Instagram, and Instagram was interesting because it had constraints. Square video, 60 seconds. So I tried doing 60-second reviews, and those weren't very good. But then I realized I could do the full review, cut it up, and cut out all the space and all that kind of stuff, and it got funnier and better, and it was fit 60 seconds. So I started doing that, and just I keep finding chips that people send me chips from all over the world. This week I'm reviewing some dill pickle potato chips from Norway that I would never have access to, but someone was kind enough to send them to me. So yeah, I review the potato chips and snacks. Today was a snack from Canada called a Havoc nacho cheese. They were like corn twists with nacho cheese flavor. So yeah, it's fun. It's enjoyable.
So now, did your wife get into the sandwiches and the snacks and everything as much as you do, or is this?
No, no, not at all. She, I mean, she's vegetarian, almost vegan. So
Okay.
a lot of the sandwiches that I make are kind of off limits. Every once in a while, she'll partake and try one of the ones that's vegetarian. But no, she's generally a very healthy, a much healthier eater than I am. I will say that I eat pretty healthy for dinner, and breakfast is just sort of like once in a while thing. But yeah, she doesn't necessarily participate in the chips, and definitely not the ice cream. She doesn't eat sugar, just because she had a cancer a couple of years ago, or a few years ago now, 10 years ago. And so to avoid a recurrence, she avoids things like soy and sugar because those can cause estrogen, which is what her cancer fed on. So,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Is she now? What I have found in talking to all of these various people that I have had the pleasure of meeting through this weird app called TikTok, I have found that most of the people that are out in front doing the videos and have the large following, a few 100,000 up to 1 million, so forth, their spouses are typically the ones that are the introverts, the ones that are don't put me on camera, I don't want to talk. Is your wife like that?
Uh, yes, until she isn't. So
Okay.
for the most part, yeah, she doesn't want to be on camera, but every once in a while she'll kind of indicate like, oh yeah, okay, I'll do something. But in general, yeah, she prefers to kind of hang back.
So how about the rest of the people in your inner circle? Even listen, you've got what, 3, 4, 500,000 followers
On TikTok, yeah, 330 something or
right?
yeah,
So
320.
that is a significant following. Do the people around you, do you run into people where they're like, oh, you're famous?
Um, yeah, it's funny. I have not. I've run into people who have said, "Hey, are you Sandwiches of History? Are you that guy?" But it's mainly from Instagram, which now actually is a bigger following than TikTok does. Um,
Really?
yeah, I've got like 333,000 on Instagram, which is mind blowing.
Right on.
But yeah, no, I've had it a few times, but it doesn't happen often. It really doesn't.
Now, what about like family members? You got kids or whatever? Do they look at you weird now?
No, no, don't have kids. Do have nephews and nieces. It's hard for me to gauge how they think about it. Like they're like, okay. I'm kind of the
Sorry.
weird. Yeah, no worries. I think I'm just the weird uncle that somehow has a social media following that they don't. They're like, okay, it's cool.
Right.
I guess. I don't know. So
I'll have people in the family that will tell me. My daughter would get this a lot when she was going through the dating apps. She'd meet some guy and they would talk for a couple of days. And eventually the guy would go, hey, you got to check out this video from this guy I follow on TikTok. And they would send it and it would be me. And my daughter would be like, Jesus, I can't do it. I can't do anything. I can't
yeah,
go anywhere. I can't do it. And then, like my son's got a teacher that's like, you're Tom Powell's kid, aren't you? And he's like, yeah. And she's like, yeah, I just watch your dad all the time. So it could be a bit of a drag for some of the people in my circle.
Yeah.
But also because I talk about more controversial stuff.
True.
What you do, people actually enjoy. I mean, people like sandwiches. People, I don't know. Do you get any of the hate? Do you get people that just you say and leave comments that you're just like, what the hell?
Yeah. Well, I mean, when I announced the tour, I said, yeah, definitely going to go to Chicago, Los Angeles, and New York. And someone commented about hitting up those. Yeah, definitely hit those liberal cities. And it's like, that wasn't even a consideration when I was. These are the three biggest cities in the United States that represent the three biggest chunks of my followers where they live. Where does this even come from? Like,
right, you've never made a political piece of content in your life, have you?
No.
Yeah, see, I just don't understand.
Every once in a while, and I've learned over the years when someone's being good-natured about it and when someone's being disgenuine, and I know how to deal with them.
That's good. Yeah. The one thing that when in talking to other creators, and it seems to be consistent across the board. I've talked to cooking and baking creators. I've talked to comedic creators. I've talked to political creators. I've talked to creators that do things like show you how to do home renovations or live on a homestead. And across the board, eventually they get some lunatic that leaves them some insane comment that just really baffles their mind and almost questions them, that makes them question putting themselves out there, even for something non-controversial, just like showing somebody their lifestyle, like the creators that I talk about that do the homesteading. Boy, they just get they get savage commentary.
I know, and it's weird to me. I mean, I've had people say, like, early on, I haven't had it for a while, but some folks will leave comments about how, like, I was being mean-spirited in adding things to the recipe, and that how I was being judgmental and privileged. People in 1909 didn't have, or 1936 didn't have as much, and it's like, yes, the book has bare bone sandwiches, but it also has caviar sandwiches. This is not me framing this. This is just how it is. And so I don't get a lot of that, thankfully. It's just every once in a while.
And I dig the fact that content creators of similar backgrounds have this ability, like you and Sandwich Dad. Mm-hmm. And there's a couple of other like content creators that I follow, once again, going to the home study. Like I follow 3 different ones and they all know each other and they all talk to each other offline. And it's so cool, the kind of community that this stuff has been able to create. Because I don't know how old you are, but I'm of the Gen X. I was born in the early 70s. And, this instant connectivity is just insane. The fact that I'm sitting in my house, being able to talk and look at you simultaneously from California, for somebody that came up in the 70s, that just wasn't a thing.
Oh no, I completely agree. I like, but then again, I try to, like, I do keep a sense of wonder about things. Like the internet is still amazing to me. Flying is still amazing to me. You're sitting in a chair going 500 miles per hour, 30,000 feet above the earth. Like, yeah, I get it. Flying is a pain, and all the process of flying is a pain. But it is amazing that we can do that.
It is.
But yeah, the sense of community. The other thing was, like, every once in a while I'll do a live, and like people from all over the world, Germany, Chile, Brazil, and it's mind blowing. They'll join and say hi, and it's like, wow, how is this happening?
I have a gentleman from England, from the UK, who has sent me 60, 70 different gifts over the weeks.
Wow.
Chicago Cubs playing cards, Indianapolis Colts playing cards, the Chicago Cubs Rubik's Cube, a Colts Rubik's Cube, a Kerry Wood signed baseball, a Cubs baseball, 5 pairs of sunglasses, a Christmas sweater. He's like, dude, I just love your content. He just keeps sending me stuff. And I'm like, I appreciate it. You do not have to do that.
Yeah,
I truly do appreciate it. I can't even imagine how much money this gentleman has spent sending me stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm not used to people doing that kind of thing. I appreciate it. I mean, it's where I got, and I'm gonna say it's not a sandwich, but it's where I got my taco head from. Somebody sent that to me. Somebody sent
That's
me
awesome.
my taco pillow.
Nice.
I, you
Yeah.
know my content. I'm a huge taco guy.
Yes.
Which just as a side note, it drives me insane that I cannot have El Pastor because I
No.
can't find a place that does not have the onions mixed in with the El Pastor.
Yep. That's pretty
It just
much.
otherwise it tastes so damn good.
Well, Tom, you could make it yourself.
Well, that's the thing that's my wife has been trying to get me to make it myself. Full disclosure, I know that this is going to come as a shock to some people out there, given my size. I only started cooking 2 years ago, and I have never in my life cooked anything over an open flame. I have never grilled a day in my life.
Well,
I was always I have money and a phone, I can get food kind of guy. I don't need to cook. And it wasn't until a couple of years ago I actually started to cook. And I got to be honest with you, I leaned heavily into the Asian. I got some woks, and I love cooking some Asian food.
Nice. That's
Absolutely
awesome.
And I've taken 3 or 4 different birria recipes and kind of melded them to make a birria taco that's worthy enough to get my kids' Hispanic friends to go, damn, that's some good birria.
Nice. That's amazing.
So
that's fantastic, though. I mean, but that's great. You 2 years ago you got the sort of like bug, and you're like, oh, I'll try it, and you love it. Now you just keep going. Keep going.
it is. Listen, I always found it to be a chore, right? I always found cooking to be just a pain in the ass, and I thought that it was due to my limited palate because I'm only going to like so many things, and I'm not going to be able to put all the different stuff that a different recipe calls for. And what I started cooking because my wife retired and I was home, and I was like, you know what, God damn it, you better start learning how to cook. Pull your weight around here.
Yeah.
And in the process of learning how to cook, I realized that I kind of like it. And if I just omit the shit that I don't like, then I can work around some recipes. And it got me going, and it got me to the point where I got a mean sauce recipe. I can make a mean meatball.
Nice.
I could do a ton of Asian dishes, and my top tier food, both that I make and that I would eat outside of the house, is Mexican, and I'm starting to learn a lot of different Mexican dishes. So I'm going to catch up to you. I'm going to catch up to you.
Well, I mean, to be fair, like growing up, I was not into cooking at all. Like I got to my 20s. It was only until I met my significant other and her family, and they were passionate about food and cooking, and I started to realize, oh, this is something that the recipes are there and you follow them, but then you can go veer off, and this is what things are supposed to taste like. My mom, unfortunately, was not a great cook, so I couldn't understand for the life of me why anyone liked steak, because it was always shoe leather whenever we had it, because it was overcooked. Vegetables were terrible because they were just gray and stringy because they were overcooked. And then once I started tasting and experiencing food how it was supposed to be, it was like, oh, and that's when I started to really get into making and cooking food. So yeah, it happens.
So if I could kind of piggyback off what you were just saying, my mother was a horrendous cook. And coming from an Italian immigrant father that she had, I was so shocked. My grandmother could cook her ass off. My mother was first generation born in America, Sicilian. It's like, how do you not know how to cook?
Yep.
She could screw up anything. But she also tried to stretch things. We were so poor. So when she would make a little tiny meatloaf when I was a kid for me and my brother, and she'd put a hard boiled egg in the middle of it, kind of make it stretch.
I remember
seeing this day, the thought of getting a slice of meatloaf with a piece of hard boiled egg in it to this day will turn my stomach, as will biscuits and gravy. My father's side of the family is Southern Indiana hillbillies, and biscuits and gravy was every morning, period. We're eating it every day, and I got so damn sick of it.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
That I can't even smell it anymore. And if my grandmother did not make biscuits and gravy, my grandfather wouldn't eat what she made, and he'd go down to the corner restaurant with my father and get biscuits and gravy. However,
wow.
You talked about you didn't think you liked the steak because of shoe leather. If my wife was down here, she would be smacking me in the back of the head and telling me to listen to you, because if she's going to throw a steak on the grill, I have her throw a chicken breast right next to it, because the only way I can eat a steak is well done.
All right. Well,
And I know that it's tough. I know that it's not the way it's supposed to be, but mentally, and I'm old enough to admit this. I'm mature enough to admit I can't get past the red.
oh well, then yeah, then don't then yeah, eat it. The thing is, it's you eat what you like, and you eat how you like. I personally would would advocate trying, but
Yeah.
but I'm not gonna give you a hard time for, because especially when it's kind of like someone saying, "Oh, well, then you should just totally just try brains." It's like, well, I can't get past the idea of eating brains, right? So
Right. And listen, I know it's not blood. I get it's not blood.
I know.
But like my father would eat a steak, and it would be like, just take a cow and throw him on the fire for 3 seconds aside and throw him on my plate, right? And he'd be good. And it was just I just couldn't stand it. But I wanted to tell you about a sandwich, since you get a lot of people that tell you about their weird sandwiches.
Oh yeah.
My father would eat things that would make a goddamn billy goat puke. Okay, I mean, it was vile.
Oh,
And
I am fearful, but go ahead.
when my father had an opportunity to actually sit down and watch a Bears game on a Sunday, when he wasn't working one of his 3 jobs, this is literally his snack of choice. And it's no wonder the guy got up above 300 pounds and had diabetes. Anyway, he would toast an entire loaf of bread. He would fry an entire dozen eggs, and he would make fried egg sandwiches with ketchup, the whole loaf, the whole dozen eggs. He would stack them on a tray, like a TV tray. Wait, hang on. I shit you not, I'm not making this up, on my children's lives. Next to that,
You said
he would
stack them as in plural.
plural, yeah, a whole loaf of bread and a whole dozen eggs. And he would take a cereal bowl and fill it with syrup, pancake syrup. And he would sit in his lounge chair watching the Bears game, and he would pick up a fried egg with ketchup sandwich on toast, and he would dip it in the syrup, and he would eat it.
I mean, I'd try it, but it doesn't sound great.
It sounds
way too sweet.
vile.
It sounds way too sweet and massive. Like, I can't believe he ate that much.
And see, that's the thing, is he had a massive sweet tooth, and his drink of choice was Amaretto in Dr. Pepper. Right?
Wow. Yeah, that is.
You could almost
sweet.
taste the sugar in between your teeth with that one, right?
My teeth are hurting hearing about it. Oh.
Now, going back to a little bit of a quote unquote normal side, one of his other favorite sandwiches is a standby in the Chicagoland area. That is, you take the French bread loaf that the Italian beef sandwich comes on, and during Lent you put scrambled eggs and green peppers in there.
Ooh, nice.
A pepper and egg sandwich. It's a meatless choice during Lent, and around here people go absolutely apeshit for them every Friday.
It sounds pretty tasty to me. I mean, all it's missing is a little ham, and you got a Denver omelet sandwich. But
See? Now the weird part is that, because my father didn't do it because of Lent. He did it because he liked the sandwich.
Yeah, good for him.
And it's supposed to be a meatless option, but he would have them take that and dunk it in the beef juice.
Of course.
So
they're like, yeah, not Catholic. Got it.
Right. He said, no, he was not Catholic. His wife was Catholic, but he certainly was not Catholic.
Yeah. I love that. I got to meatify this vegetarian sandwich.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. So what other hobbies you got coming up, man? What other projects? You got this tour coming up. You got this podcast. Where are people going to be able to find this podcast at?
Well, hopefully wherever you get your podcast. We're really running and gunning. We're trying to figure it out as we're building the car as we drive down the road, as they say. So I don't know. My guess is it's just going to be like at least on Spotify and Apple podcasts.
Well, the main platform is going to be Spotify, right?
Yes. And then so we've got the podcast that we're working on coming up, the tour in the fall, which is in support of Sandwiches History, the cookbook that I wrote, that's going to come out on November 5th, unfortunately, Election Day.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, it's fantastic. But then got the tour coming up. And yeah, I've got some guest hosts lined up. I'm going to be on vacation in August, and I've got some pretty fun guest hosts lined up, which will be kind of interesting and fun to watch.
Oh, that'll be cool. Yeah. Sandwich Dad gonna be one of them?
Sandwich Dad is one. Sandwich Tribunal, by the way, Jim Beeheimer he is a Chicago man. He is in Chicago. He's from Chicago.
Interesting. I have to look him up.
Look him up. Sandwich Tribunal. Jim. He's a great guy. He is like the sandwich master. Like I consider him the godfather of sandwich knowledge. He runs a website, Sandwich Tribunal. He's done that since 2017.
Okay.
And he's a great guy. So, yeah, so we got the podcast coming up. He's going to be one. Sandwich Dad's going to be one. I've got H. John Benjamin, who's like the voice actor, or comedian, actor, voice actor from Archer and Bob's Burgers.
Okay.
And just a whole bunch of folks ready to do guest hosting.
And where are people going to be able to buy this cookbook from?
They can pre-order it now on Amazon or wherever you pre-order books. So you can actually pre-order it now if you want. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. Check this out. Hang on a second.
Yes, sir.
So this would be a shameless plug because I got this from the publisher.
Okay.
And it's like, all right, I got the book. It's filled with all kinds of great recipes. It's a prop. They sent me a prop.
They sent you a prop, yeah.
So you'll be seeing this cropping up from time to time in the videos over the next few months.
Who's your publisher?
Quarto is the main one, but then Harvard Common Press is the subdivision or the imprint that they put it out under.
Cool. I had to self-publish mine. I couldn't get anybody to publish my books.
It's funny. This is almost like the TV show thing where the production company came in and they're like, we think we can make this a show, and they go around and nope. The guy at Quarto reached out to me and said, hey, have you considered doing a cookbook? And I said, I don't know. And then I got a friend of mine referred me to a couple of literary agents, and they're like, let's shop you around. They shopped me around. No. We ended up back at Quarto, but Quarto's been great. They've been really helpful and supportive. So
Good. I'm glad. I said, I like your content. I like your channel, and I like to see people that I dig succeed at what they want to do. And one of the things that I think TikTok has been able to do for a lot of people is it's been able to allow them to kind of do what they always dreamed about doing, or kind of do what they really love to do. Yeah. And listen, I know people think that I'm insane, but I love talking about politics.
I know really you do. It shows.
And so I'm like, why the hell would I not do it? And you love talking about sandwiches, and this one loves talking about cats, and the beautiful part about it is that you learn that there are more people out there than you think that dig what you're going to do.
Absolutely.
There are more people out there that you think that are going to be like, cool, a sandwich channel. I gotta watch this, man.
It's wild to me that I've got the community built up that I have around sandwiches and sandwiches of history. I think it's pretty amazing and pretty remarkable. What's also interesting, though, just on a personal note, I've noticed that there's this whole nichification of interest where someone could be like, have millions of followers, touring, selling out arenas, and I will never have heard of them because I'm not into what they do. But people who really are, and they've found them. And it's just amazing to me that kind of thing can happen. I don't know everything about everything that's going on, but I like to try and stay up on stuff. But every once in a while, like I'll hear it be like, oh, you haven't heard of this person? I'm like, no. And then you go and they've got this massive following on social media. And it's like, how did I not know about this?
And it makes you feel old, right?
A little bit,
yeah. Man, am I out of touch? No, I just wasn't into what they were doing. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, yeah, clearly we're not out of touch. We're on TikTok.
Exactly. And I appeared in an AARP newsletter article about Gen Xers finding success on TikTok.
Nice.
And it was an interesting article. There were like 4 or 5 of us that were featured on there, and they were like, well, what has TikTok done for you? I'm like, I don't know. It's made it so that when I go to the shoe store, somebody standing in line's like, I know you. So I'm like, I always tell people I didn't think I would have 1,000 followers on TikTok because I'm an old man in the Midwest rambling on about politics. So where all of these damn people came from, I have absolutely no idea.
I do that. It's the same thing. It's just like I'm just a guy in the kitchen making sandwiches once a day. Like I wouldn't expect any of this to happen, and it
Exactly.
did. So it's pretty rad. What's
Yeah.
amazing though is TikTok. I don't know about you, but like TikTok to me, kind of as far as number of views you get, has waned significantly. Like an average video might, if on a good day, get 10,000 views, and I've got 300,000 followers. Whereas on Instagram, the engagement, the messaging is completely off the charts comparatively. So it's
Yeah,
kind of interesting.
I don't do as much on Instagram. I've been trying to do more on Instagram lately.
Mhm.
The views like you're talking about, they come and go for me. Like, you know,
Yeah.
I'll post it. It'll be weird. I'll post a video and 2 hours later it'll have 220,000 views, or I'll post a video and 2 hours later it'll have 3,000 views.
Yeah.
And the most I ever got on a video was like 34 million. And then there are some that are sitting at zero for weeks because they're in
Yeah.
some kind of limbo somewhere.
Yeah. I mean,
It
yeah,
comes.
I personally have the reason why I do publish on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube is to mitigate the fact that the algorithm is going to go where the algorithm is going to go, and it's not always going to be nice to you. Sometimes it might be, sometimes it'll be great for you. So I figured, you know what? I'll just put it on all these platforms where all these people are. There's folks on Reddit who have said that they're not making a TikTok or Instagram account, so they want me to put in the chips on Reddit, right?
Okay.
So it happens. So
I
I
get
figured,
that from, so like I get people on Instagram that'll tell me I'm not on Facebook and I'm never going back. And then I have people on Facebook that tell me I'm not on Twitter because Elon Musk bought it. So you got to cover your bases if you want to reach a wide audience. And
right.
plenty of people have gotten aggravated with TikTok and left. Listen, before we wrap up here, I know it's just a burger, but depending on how long you're going to be in the city of Chicago, and you might want to talk to your friend about this. If you have a
Yeah.
chance, get to the north side and get to a place called Kuma's Corner.
Okay, I'm gonna write that down.
K
Corner.
Yeah, KUMA' Corner. You should look up online before you go. A brief kind of background on what this place is.
Okay.
There's a guy on the north side of Chicago that used to hang out. I don't know about where you're from, but here there's a lot of alleys.
Yeah,
So
not so much in California, or at least not
so
in
in Chicago, a lot of times you'll have a garage behind your house and an alley.
Yeah.
And so there's a guy that was hanging out in it. He liked to hang out with his buddies in his garage, drinking whiskey and listening to heavy metal music. And he got to making burgers for them as they would hang out. And people from around the neighborhood would smell the burgers and would come and talk to him about, hey, can I get a burger? Hey, can I get a burger? And everybody started telling him, hey, you should start a burger joint. Your burgers are awesome. You should start a burger joint. And so he started this place called Kuma's Corner. And it's literally a corner shop. They open
Okay.
at like 11:30, but by 10 a.m. there's a line around the block of people waiting to get in. They got whiskey on tap. Whiskey on tap. Build your own mac and cheese. All of the servers are pierced and tatted up. They pipe heavy metal music in. All the burgers and dishes are named after heavy metal bands or heavy metal songs. And when you walk in the joint, I am not lying to you, you will see metalheads sitting next to businessmen in suits, sitting next to nuns in habits, because this dude's burgers are so off the chain. He was on Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives.
Okay.
And if you have a chance to maybe look up that episode, Kuma's Corner on that. And if you have a chance while you're in town, swing up there because it is one of the best burgers, if not the best burger I've ever had in my entire life.
All right. Well, I've definitely made a note of that because that sounds pretty amazing. I love that story too. I love the fact that it was just like he was just doing it for fun, and turns out, he's pretty good at it. So he opens a place, and now everybody comes in of all stripes, and I dig it.
Or organic growth. And here's another cool quick story before we wrap this up here. It's one of those places where they got all kinds of like signs on the walls and in the window and stuff. And there's a sign in the front window right next to the door that says, you've seen the sign before. It says hippies use the rear entrance.
Yes.
And the guy who owns the joint was being interviewed by a local news station, and he was telling this story about how one day he's going to take garbage out the back door to go to the alley, and as he opens the door, there's a dirty hippie trying to open the door and come in. And he goes, "What are you doing, man? This is my kitchen." And the guy goes, "Well, the sign on the front said hippies use the back door, man." And he goes, he loved the idea that the guy tried to get in the back. He brought him through the kitchen, sat him down on a stool, and gave him whatever the hell he wanted to eat because he thought it was so damn cool that he was actually trying to use the back.
That is brilliant.
Which makes
it's
me want to
amazing.
go try to open the back door to this dude's goddamn restaurant because I want a free burger.
Yeah, but you're not dirty. Sorry.
Exactly. I gotta not bathe for a few days.
Exactly. Rub a little dirt on your face.
Exactly. Barry, thank you very much for doing this, brother. I appreciate it, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on. It was great to meet you and great to talk with you.
Likewise. And I'm serious, man. I'll shoot you a message with my cell phone number. If you're going to come into town, shoot me a text. Let me know.
Okay, you got it. I'm definitely coming to town.
Thank you. All right, on. We'll talk.
I'll let you know. All right, cool.
We'll take it easy, brother.
Sounds good. You too. Bye.
Bye.